Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing today as far as creating an attention grabber for the very beginning of your paper. So what I've done is I put you at um, several different tables in the room, and what you're going to do is each one of your tables is going to look at one of these different types of attention grabbers, whether it's asking a question, using an anecdote or a story, giving a definition, using a quote, using an analogy, an incident, any one of these five other attention grabbers to build some excitement and interest at the top of your paper. So number one, there's no group one. There's always group two, three, four, five, six. Group one is going to ask a question, um, which is I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you an example of this. So asking a question challenges the mind. Um, an anecdote, everyone loves a good story. So the story can be anything in the real world that is related to your topic, to the idea of heroism, maybe something in the news that that touches on the idea of someone being a hero. Giving a definition, not necessarily quoting the Oxford, English dictionary defines the word undecided as blah 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 blah, but you want to maybe use a definition of a keyword like heroism or the idea of sacrifice or leadership, something that's going to be connected to your paper. Use a quote. Maybe use a quote from the text itself and give us context, or give us a quote from somebody well known that said something about the idea of being a hero. Or use an analogy. When we talked about, and for example, it says finding the correct job is like finding the correct pair of shoes, for a person knows when he or she has found the perfect fit. That analogous relationship. So something that might be analogous to being a hero, perhaps. And then, of course, asking a question, which one of your groups will get a chance to do. So what you'll do is either your group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're going to do this. And what you're doing is you guys are building for the entire class possibilities of attention grabbers that anyone in the class might use. So for my example, I ask a question. My example here was what makes a person free? How might a person truly earn his or her freedom in the world? Well, if I'm going to ask a question about hero or heroism for our paper, I might say, how might a hero have human or natural flaws and be able to save the lives of others? Is it possible? Does a hero risk his or her life physically or emotionally? Notice I've always stayed in third person. I haven't used I, or I haven't referred to the audience as you or us or we or me. But I've kept it in the third person. So that's the first thing you'll do is you'll use your technique, whether it's an anecdote or a definition or a quote. But then what I want you to do to push it a step further, and this will give us more options, is take your initial idea and then add one of these other ones to it. So you'll notice here, I'm going to ask a question, but I'm also going to use a definition for it. So I can say, heroism can be defined as someone who is willing to risk his or her life in the act of bravery and or courage. And I got that from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. How might a hero have human or natural flaws and be able to save the lives of others? Is it possible? Why does a hero risk his or her life physically or emotionally? So what I've done is I've taken what I have up here, but then I've also added another one of these techniques, which I think can make a much stronger attention grabber when you combine the two. You got the chocolate, you got the peanut butter. Speaking of analogies, put them together, you got something great. So, those of you that are going to do the anecdote, try that first. Place yours here. And then what other new technique of these? Do you ask a question and have an anecdote? Do you use a definition and an anecdote? Do you use a quote or an analogy and an anecdote? You have to decide that. But coming up with one that works and then combine that one with another technique and create it. And remember, this is shared between everybody in the class. So hopefully by the end of class today, you and your group members have things you've created that you can use, but you also can use some of the other pieces that have been created by other groups. The key here, no blank space. No blank space. Have two examples for each. Because if you leave blank space, you're letting down the rest of the class. make an attempt at it, because if you make an attempt, you might actually come up with something pretty good. Alrighty? So, good luck and have fun.